They are quite long. Highly recommend watching them in double speed. But I think it's a good idea for everyone to just go and check. There's some more tools. There's more specifics to like the tools and the workflow with PPR shaders. So we went and looked at the PPR workflow, some of what's on Sketchfab. We looked at. Let me also just share what I'm looking at with you. All right, so there's a playlist of these, but I guess they're also on Classroom, so you can just go there and grab them from there. Like I said, we looked at some photogrammetry stuff, but very rudimentary things. And hopefully that would sort of inform the type of assets that you would want to make for your project. Okay, so the brief is now a little bit more intact than before. I set the sketches and planning assignment for tomorrow because, well, it was announced so late. But it's really just any ideas, any asset packs that you want to create. I've already had some of you post some questions on that. So I'm here to just brainstorm that with you today, make sure that everyone's kind of like on the right path and what they want to make, and then I can sort of structure whatever type of technical tools we need to approach for those type of assets. So one of the things, just as a conversation starter, Joshua isn't here, but asked me if you can make an asset pack for like googly eyes, right? I didn't really know what he meant by that, but I suppose if you make a script that makes googly eyes, maybe that's an asset to someone. I don't know if googly eyes is really, but eye rigs are definitely something, right? So I've looked at a couple of eye rigs, and you get those for pretty much any. If you look for Blender, you'll find iRigs for Blender, but you'll find tutorials on iRigs, and these typically, especially if they're sort of procedural, end up. All right, so I think this is actually just a demo, maybe a Patreon. That's typically how you would generate money if you did tutorials and sort of assets and things like that. But this one in particular is also an asset. Well, besides here, I think you'll find, yeah, so like this is for Blender, works with Eevee, blah blah blah, $30, right? So I mean, it's quite robust. You can go and check it out. It's got procedural sort of all sorts of shaders and things that are going on over there. I tried to, as a sort of a demo, do something similar with this guy's eye, right? So he has an eye rig that I still need to link. So I still just need to link the FK, the IK follow instructions from Unity. And then I suppose you can also build all sorts of controllers and little boxes that you can change. So you can build quite a robust rig that you could potentially reuse and, as an asset. That's not the right controller. But let's look at the eye quick. So the eye itself, where are we? They have a shape, so that's pretty standard. They have a shader. Let's see, eyeball, iris. that's procedural, and it's not production ready, so it wouldn't, I wouldn't make an asset of this yet, but you can see like what sort of things you can start combining. So if you're doing like a simple thing like an iRig or a tool or something that someone can reuse, and you want to make an asset out of that, you need to start thinking of what is that thing, what would that asset look like if it was a complete tool for someone to use. Like if you needed to import a set of eyes and then add it or retrofit it to your character, you'd need to be able to move these around. You'd like the IK rig and things to be active. You would probably want like a series of options for the eye shader. So I would probably have to, I think I've only exposed the colors on this shader. You'd probably need to give them a bunch of options in terms of patterns and noise patterns and things like that. Let's see, look at the shader again. It's class. I want to use the time to go through your ideas for assets and what you have planned, so that when you submit your documentation, that I know you're on track before you even get there. So I'm showing you as an example like how you would bundle a few things together as an asset pack. So what I would then typically do is remove the things that aren't part of the asset pack and sort of isolate that and then package that. And I think the main sort of start of this conversation was like, can I make a googly eye asset pack for Unity? Then I would say, you could, but like you need to make sure that there's enough to it that someone would actually want it. I mean, you get stupid asset packs. I think you can. I think you can probably buy a cube on the asset store if you wanted to. Let's see, Unity, or a capsule. Yes, thank you. Don't, please don't. Where it? Oh, I'm talking in both. Sorry, I'm in the. Okay, they can't hear me, guys. I'm also on Discord, and that's now very confusing. Shall I leave Discord later? Okay. Okay, it's to the meet. Okay. All right, because I don't think anyone else can hear you. Oh, and you also can't see anything from that side. Is everyone on Discord? Because we could. I mean, I prefer Discord, but Amber. In the brief, under resources, there's a link to Discord channel, so you can join it from there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, there's a bunch of tutorials that I've shared or I've done on real-time rendering in the past, but we did a run through of everything that we basically are going to be covering in the real-time rendering module. So you can go and check that out. If you didn't attend that module last year, if you didn't have it, please go and check that out, because it is going to be vital for you to know some basic sort of rendering workflows. Okay, like baking textures and that sort of stuff. We'll go through it again on case-by-case basis, but I mean, then you guys would need to start getting into it in any case and decide what you would want to do as an asset. Okay. Guys, can we chat about what you want to do as assets? What are your ideas? And what do you have to do? What's absolutely essential? Shall I go down a list? Or any volunteers? You could do an asset pack. I can't hear you. Is someone talking? Oh. Okay, I'll be right back. Ah. Yay. I can hear you now. So what's happening? Did I miss something? Okay, so Quixel has a very nice way of approaching variations in assets, like you mentioned, the weather effects like snow and moss and the aging and all that sort of stuff. So you can make some really cool, well, Substance would call it substances. So Substance Designer, you could design those sort of materials. You can expose substances in Unity, so you can actually import an SBAR file format into Unity so that all the sliders and all the variations in decay and height and whatnot actually gets changed in there. I don't know, or you can do it in real time, but I don't know how well integrated Quixel is. With that sort of thing. So some people do like just substances, right? So if you've gone onto Substance Source, and by the way, there's another really good, I mean, some Blender tutorials and things like that on here as well. I'll post it on Classroom. I still owe you guys a bunch of links as well. From last session. There's some stuff on Substance Designer and Substance Painter and Substance in general. But if you go to Substance Source, you'll see that, again, there are like these materials that are sold as assets. Some are free as well. But just designing a really good material is also, or a material pack for that matter, is already quite a task. So just see, they do these, I can't remember if it was on Substance or Quixel, but they do these asset pack sort of dumps, and then oh yeah, it was here. So on substance source, and let's see. Let me just copy this as well. So if you go there and you scroll down just a bit, you'll see that there's like a whole bunch of stylized ones as well. So there you can see what sort of packaging you could do. Just have everything that you do sort of theme specific, so that you can apply it to a game that has value to a production. Because making random ones has a lot less value to production than making a set of styled ones. So that stylized kit looks really awesome, actually. There's only a couple of free ones. They're very cool. What other ideas did you guys have? I missed the whole discussion when you flew into each other. Googly eye rig. An eye rig, basically. But you could. What? Okay. There's already an asset for that. The swing bone thing. Yeah, it is something like that. It is dynamic bone. Yeah. Okay. So typically an iRig would look something like hmm, excuse this fella, he's up to no good. Let's grab another clip here. Default. All right, so this is actually a broken iRig, to be honest. But you would typically have one controller for the look at, and then you can control that with whatever, right? So that's similar, but like I said, I haven't hooked this guy up yet, but that's the same rig format, what it looks like in, actually, let me just get that character. Sorry, just navigating. Okay, so his looks a little bit better. So that's the same rig. So you can see that it maps the sort of the corners of the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the look-ats, the brows, and then you can set up the rest of the stuff. But you can create quite complex hierarchies of controllers if you work with this animation rigging system, right? So imagine you have both eyes and then separate eye controllers, and then you can control all of that with like a noise pattern or something like that, so you don't have to always explicitly move them around, right? So then you would have a main controller. Let me show you some wires. Okay, so a main controller for both eyes, and then separate controllers for them to go askew. And then you can still sort of put you could put physics on this as well, I suppose, if that's what you want to do. But I think as an asset, it would be cool to have eyes that you can opt to make googly or not, and have some flexibility. Okay, I don't think that's not a good move. It's not a good look for him. I think that's the offset, or it's meant to rotate or something. Let's see, what does this do? Moves the Y socket. Okay, so I suppose again, something like that would be useful, because you may want to just like stick eyeballs into an empty socket that you have from somewhere else. Although eyeballs in general, I think you'll find aren't necessarily a thing in game design. They tend to be merged with the mesh. They're not often that like a separate entity. Or you can even stick them on top. You can do that Shaun the Sheep kind of eye rig. That Artman, the typical Artman looking thing where it's like covered in lids. So you get lids included, and you can literally just stick them on top of things. Okay. Oh, it's Shaun. All right. They're embedded, but they normally have lids. Yeah, that could be cool. Okay, what else you guys got? All right, so like for that, you would typically get some references, plot out things to do, list them in order of importance and what you need to get in place first. Like, do you have a mesh? Are you going to do shapes for pupils? Are you going to be doing shaders for any of the components? How do you break up the eye so that it's useful to various applications? Yeah, you said NPC pack. So there's a bunch of these sort of what do you call them, like poser, like like fuse and those kind of things. And what they do is they have like a couple of meshes that uses a rig to deform them. And I think there was some of the earlier stages ones were let me see if I can find it in my tools. Sort of grow. I don't know if I've shared that with you in the past. Grow rig. This was like an asset from a very long time ago, meant to be like base meshes for animation. You can tell that it's quite aged by how ugly it is. But what it did have was like base modifiers for like different kinds of body types. So that was quite interesting to play with. And then on top of that, it also had you can also with modifiers you can set weights for certain areas so that it doesn't modify the entire body at once. And they also did the thing was called Grow Rig, what you would do is you would move the main rig around so it would have a rig that you could scale. So it had a modeling rig, if you're familiar with that type of concept. Oops, that's not correct. So you would have something like this where you just be able to scale and deform anything. Yeah, and then set weights and things like that. And basically use it as a starting point for sculpting. It's not a terrible mesh. And base meshes are normally good to have. Wait, the things are down here for some reason. Yeah, so it's not showing all the geometry, but that's fine. That's it's lying to you. It's not showing the. Why is it not showing all the geometry? There you go. All right, now it's showing all the geometry. Let's see, what is that? So there's a number of things that you can do for characters or NPCs that can make them sort of more modular by adding a bunch of shape tweens, by adding a sort of a pose rig, or shapes and sliders that you can change the scale of things. You can do variations on clothing and color variations on things. One normally picks up on those kind of things very easily if you get really close up to those characters. So if you just do sort of color variations, so you should try and but you can use the same base mesh essentially then still. And I suppose you could also use props like hats and things to create more variation. Ah, haha, thank you. There's more. Okay, talk to me, guys. Okay. Pack or weapons pack, NPCs. Yes? Yeah? I mean, you can pop a link in the chat, or you can share if you want. Just let me know if you want to share, then I can stop. I did read about the pack for moss and things. I just thought that's quite similar to what Quixel sure. Township miscellaneous pack. I can see anything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you familiar with greebles? Do you know what greebles are? Greeble Greebles are sort of little decal bits of things. I think it was. Sorry, I'm going to reference a Wikipedia link here. 'Cause it's the easiest way. So they can be shaders too, if you have, like a displacement shader for greebles, but they're normally like these little packs of nothings and bits. So modular bits that you can fit together to make things look complicated or space aged or sci-fi. You get decal packs as well. But you could perhaps, if you have a few items like I don't know, like arms and legs, you can sort of try and assemble these little robots. Or I suppose you could make one robot as well with all the functionality. So then you're basically just making a player character. So you have the option of either doing it sort of more procedurally so that people can build their own. Okay. Okay, so I think maybe if you could frame it like the Microsoft Assistant kind of thing, like this would, like if you plugged an assistant type of, or a translator or something, if you gave it a function, then this could be like a little assistant in your game. um, and then yeah, yeah. So then you can give it. Then you need to create a sort of a slot for it where you drag in your main character, so that this little asset pack that you've downloaded and use would always function if you just, you know drop it on the main character kind of thing. You need to package it so that it functions within a project. Um, hmm What do you what do you mean by a script? Because you're basically just firing off animations, right? So what? Okay. Okay. And you're proposing making like a series of these little robots. You could also just package them as characters, right? So you could just have like a generic animator that works on all of them, or maybe each would have a sort of a transform animation at least that's unique to it, and the rest could be standard. And then you could have all these little characters that can all just transform into a box or a basic shape or something like that, and they pop up. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Just make it your own, yeah. Or set up a game where you have opposing players or multiplayers or anything like that. So that's cool. Mm. Um, Props and things you could do a bunch too. You could rig props. You could also. Um, Sorry, Cameron. I'm just sort of going down the list of things that other people have also mentioned. Um, so you could have like nulls or empty objects or things attached to those props, so that whenever a character would pick it up, it would fit into their hand and that it hold it at the right place. Even just sort of an IK rig for arms for weapon managing would be an interesting sort of task to go for. You know, just setting up a character um, that can pick things up like properly and hold them properly. Like, I don't know if you've ever um, had to deal with an animation pack of, like, let's say firing weapons, and then you get a different weapon pack, and now your weapons don't fit into your hands anymore. That's sort of a common issue that you'll find with um, combining different assets. So if there was a way that you could rig those items or a pack that would make it easy for it to work with any animation, like an asset pack, but it also comes with a sort of a script that you run that sets up the IK for your character, and that it holds the gun properly, or the object or whatever. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You could even just search for the hands. Doesn't have to be IK necessarily, but you do. I think with two-handed weapons, it's a little tricky. You do need to shift those hands normally. There was another that just made me think of a tool for foot movement as well, like to make sure that all your foot blending works properly. Um, but yeah, these are more sort of technical tools. You can obviously make more art asset orientated things. So I think last year I also did a couple of demos on Quixel. Do you guys remember? I can't hear any of you again. I don't know if it's just me. Oh, there, I heard something. Thank you. Okay, there's some of the presets that come with Quixel. But essentially, the main advantage here, or the blending method, is just the height map. Sure, I haven't see the mass threshold. So the threshold here is referring to the height map, and then yeah, so it's using that height map over there, and you can that's what it's using as a mask, because it's getting all the curvature and things like that. So you can definitely go and you could generate like smart materials like these as well, and you could combine them if that's sort of an asset pack that you want to put together. These are actually just standard pretty standard asset maps. Just see texture maps. Let's export here again. see. So yeah, that's what I was actually thinking. They do have smart materials, but they don't have smart material authoring, if you know what I mean. You can export these as flat materials, and it's kind of the same as what Substance is doing with its painter, just with it's just a little bit more robust than Quixel, and you can paint on objects. I think you can actually paint on objects with the latest version of Quixel as well. I think you can actually open a 3D file as well, so it's not just for textures anymore. But I have to say that I think it's a little bit, other than the fact that it works well for flat surfaces, it's a little bit behind in the texturing game. So this, let me just see, Substance Painter, launch that thing. Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned before, please do go have a quick squeeze at these second year references that I put up there. On class recordings. There's a bunch of things that I ran through in there as well. See, what do I have? What is in mixes? I think that's a bunch of mega scans that I also have for Quixel. So there's some presets and things that you can, and some substances. So those are all, I think they're all loaded here. So there might be a few extras. You tend to sort of gather and build up your substance library with time. But yeah, you can sell the textures themselves as assets as well. I'm just looking for a good model to drop in there. I think I used some of these as references last time. This is not what I thought it was. Nevertheless, could paint on it. Drop some color on there. Yeah, I mean, you can make these shaders. Normally, you can start off with some of these masks, and also you want to probably differentiate between the different types of materials, so you may want to just generate your mesh maps first. So IDs are normally detected if they're separate components or if they had separate materials beforehand. That should have actually shown up there, so I think this is one material. Just see if this does separate some of it for me. No, the IDs stayed the same. I think there's an option here with the IDs. Let me just check. Let's try that. Yeah. And let me just rebake that one. Alright. Okay, so now we've got, so what do we have now? Oopsie. Framing, thank you. Sorry. Not material. Show me the IDs. Okay, so then you can use these IDs as masks. And and you can also select them, but I don't. Mesh maps are not paintable. Sure, but now does it? No. Layers. Okay, let's try put something else on there. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Just okay, but I didn't mean for this to turn into a very slow, painful substance painter tutorial. I just meant to say that you can have these substances as sort of more complex type of materials. If you look at the smart materials rather, and how they're put together. So then it creates all that hierarchy for you. So then there's dust and scratches and things that are already masked. But yeah, you can just, I mean, that's a terrible shader, and you'd have to mask quite a bit and still paint on all the bits, and yeah, mask out all these separate components. But a shader pack is something that you could do if you were interested in Substance Designer, for instance, because all these smart materials come from there. So they're created in Substance Designer and then imported as what are these? I forgot what that full format is. Okay, let's see. So Substance Designer looks a lot like Blender's sort of node texture editor. Okay, I need to, I actually do have this, sorry, back. Should be able to get them from the same, but yeah, you start off with some pretty basic stuff. Eek. Not like that. I just closed all my windows. All right. I'm going to fumble around in here even more than I did in Substance Painter. So I'm not about to pull a rabbit out of a hat here, but I have worked with the Substance and Substance Designer before. Normally don't start from scratch. Some that you can start off with. Just redock that thing. All right. So they can get very this. I don't know if anyone's worked in Maya before, but it always reminds me of Maya's sort of hypershade editor. But yeah, so it essentially works with a whole bunch of tiny materials and tileable materials, so that it can eventually create sort of smarter materials that puts the dirt and grime in the right places. So yeah, you can build these as well. One of our recent graduates actually doing this as a full-time job, just making substances and just selling those. It's very interesting. So that's obviously also an option. I wonder, so like car asset packs with colors, that kind of works because cars do, they're not like people, so you don't need that much variation in the shape of the color of the car. Like with faces, you'll see if they all look the same, but you'll expect to see more of the same car in one place, and it's not uncommon for them to be identical. So the more you can get away with, yeah, a character set would obviously be a lot more complicated. Whereas I think the one is more sort of grunt work, and you just have to get more of the same asset out. But you could also, I suppose, get texture variations using smarter materials. Substance Painter to do that. Don't know what the S bar format looks like these days, and what ability it gives you, or freedom to edit it. Let's see, substances, materials. There's a stylized water. And I don't have it doesn't support substance designers by substance designer materials by default anymore, so you need to get the package. Any other ideas, guys? Did you guys see that? Because right, I know this, but the latest Fortnite season has this theme where everything is sort of washed over. And now they've covered most of the grass areas with this not so easy to find trash material, but it's quite heavy trashy. It's like lots of plastics and things like that, but it's super flat, and it's just very weird, that you would I don't know, make something that looks so bad, and it's not aesthetically pleasing at all. Trash heap. Trash heap, that's not right. But yeah, you could very easily again do sort of like tileable elements that you could move around. These are baked in. I can't believe you can't find anything. We're not being specific enough. Okay, guess I'll grab it from the game at some point and show you guys. But that could be, I mean, to make random litter and things like that could be useful to have something that sort of randomizes the and distributes the rubbish in your world. That could be cool. Cool. Yeah, I was thinking about the footstep pack thing. Good luck with that, Ian. I had a load shedding just before lunch. It's very nice. Highly recommend it. um, footstep pack, or even if you had something that could like dirt up areas where there's a lot of traffic. It's almost like generating a heat map of the traffic, of the player traffic in your world. That could be very interesting as well. Matthew, you just need to check that you can't have the same assets for two outcomes. You can do that if it's the major and the module sometimes, because the outcomes differ, but if there are too many overlapping outcomes between two modules, then you can't hand in the same work. So you just need to sort of decide. I suppose you could do one asset for the one and then do an asset pack for the other one. Yeah, if you break it up that way. But you can't hand in the same work for two things. Yeah, Amber, that could work if you're if you enjoyed doing that sort of stuff. You could maybe check with some of the game major students as well. If you want to help out on any of their projects, there's definitely some stylized medieval themed games in production. So those things would be highly appreciated, I'm sure. Cool. So what I'll do is, based off the planning and sketches, I'll look at the tools and techniques around that particular asset construction workflow. So whatever that entails, whatever you decide to do, whatever, if there's like asset packs for models and decals and that sort of stuff, it's a combination of shading and modeling. So that's probably going to be a lot of that content is going to be shading, modeling, poly reduction, and that sort of stuff. Texture baking. But yeah, again, it depends on the type of tools. I'm hearing that there might be like some rigging tools and some automation tools as well, or script-based tools. So I'll look into those. And like I said, I'll create separate sort of channels and feeds for the different approaches to this asset pack. Okay, so please, yeah, share your thoughts with me. Let me know what you want to do. If you get stuck with anything, we just need to get going with this. There's going to be somewhat of a crunch time towards, like I mentioned before, towards week 4, where you need to have your base components in place, right? So that's if you did, and I'll also mention down here, if you're doing anything like, so your base component can be like, if you're doing something model related, it would be your 3D models, your base meshes, or your high poly models, your scans that are ready to be optimized and baked down. So that means that you need to have your UVs and things in place as well. If you're doing, you can do 2D, 3D audio effects or tools, any assets with sort of pre-renders and proofs. So proofs are like little demos that you can record. So if it's an asset that you're working on that distributes sort of decals in your entire level, then you can do that. You can sort of do a little demo and show us how it works. Otherwise, this is where we go to Unity. So the next deadline is then week 6, which is working in engine. So that means whatever you had ready by week 4, whether it was a base mesh or your scans or whatever, or the start of your tool, that needs to be in engine and working by week 6. Okay, and then in week 8 we just clean it up, we remove all the unnecessary components, make sure that we can package it nicely so that it can be imported in other projects. It can be used by other people, and there's no other sort of overhead or attached third-party assets or anything like that to it. Cool. So, I mean, you could even, using the same kind of approach as you know, Substance Painter and Substance Designer does, like with gradients and noise patterns and procedural things and smaller tileable elements. You can also do sort of these backdrops and background elements. You can do a sort of a background mat for 2D games that could be procedural, that you can share or swap out little elements with. You can see that like these often follow a sort of a design style, so you can make a bunch of stylistic. If you look at any game asset pack, you typically find a bunch of modular little elements, right? So that's a 2D pack, there's a 3D pack, there's a city pack, and some guns and whatnot. So you'll see, and you can easily, I mean, you can also see that these are all basically the same thing. They're just color variations of themselves. That's also typically something that you can add to an asset. That's a stupid element though, because you could literally just change the color of that in Unity if you needed to. So don't just change the U and call it something new. Yeah, modular packs for dressing environments. This is typically what they would look like. So you can go and model a whole bunch of like tiny things if that's what you want to do. This always reminds me of that guy, again back to Artman. There was a dude that spent 2 years just making vegetables for Curse of the Were-Rabbit. there was an article at some point about it. But yeah, quite a sweet story of how the sort of a janitor or someone that, or the runner that started working with the art team, just started making vegetables, and then the production ran for 2 years, and he ended up making tiny vegetables and things for 2 years. Yeah, that's how you get your dream job, guys. Make tiny vegetables. Okay. Right, so go look at the brief, go look at the other videos. I'll post some more if I get any ideas from you guys of what you want to do, or what areas you're interested in looking, and then I can suggest sort of tools, and I can show you how they work and what to do with them. Lately, I've been working with a lot of animation content. I mean, I always recommend that AutoRig Pro add-on, but I've also been looking at, like having animations from these typical animated sources like Mixamo and the Carnegie Mellon motion capture library, and actually retooling them and reusing them in Blender, but then again, like bringing them back from Mixamo back into Blender, back into Unity, so that you have the ability to go and edit them. So like this character is now using a whole bunch of Unity animations, right? So this is, if I just see here, pose mode, just want to get rid of the default pose that's overriding everything. Oh, now he's back in IK. One sec. Okay, well, this kind of shows what you can do in any case. So while you've got your IK animation, it's kind of like the same idea as what I'm doing in Unity at this point. Is taking these sort of typical Mixamo animations, but then being able to switch and inject additional sort of animations on top of that. So keying additional stances. It's going to blend. Let me just see if I go switching. Sort of do a half blend between the two. No, it's not following it at all. But the workflow is fairly simple. It's well documented in the tools documentation as well, as with most things. This is a very extensive rig. If you ever want to, do rigging as a tool, or build assets for rigging, just look at this guy's sort of approach and the extensiveness of the tool, and also how he sort of explains everything. It makes it easier for everyone to access. Okay, but yeah, it's really cool the way that it can take all of those animations and then bring it back into a point where you can go and edit it and add to it. So it means that those libraries of animation aren't just these sort of stagnant or you know, resources, but they're living and breathing things that you can go and work with and adopt and adapt and blend into each other and make new. Yeah, so like some of the functionality on this allows you to inject like additional curves, so it moves the entire curve by taking something like let's say the spine, for example. If we wanted the spine or the entire animation having more hunched over or more backwards, then you can very easily just go and yeah, if it's not mocked up, let me just see spine. Obviously, when I want to show you how it works and how easy it is, it breaks. Let's see what's the deal here. Okay, but yeah, normally it's quite fluid. You're allowed to make tiny vegetables if you want to. All right. Also add some references if you can, just like little thumbnails of things that you're doing. The reason why I say there's going to be like a sort of a rush in week 4 is because there's still a lot of time for you to start now. There's basically 2 weeks left for us to have all our base components in place. So if you're planning on shooting stuff, that means that you have to get it, you have to shoot it, you have to start with the optimization process then already. Modeling can take quite a long time. Yeah, just start getting the stuff together already, whatever resources or whatever sort of building blocks you're going to need. Get those together, because you do want this to be something that takes your game to the next level, or something that can either make you money in itself if you want to publish it as an asset, or something that you can add to a game in the future, or if it's a side project that you want to work on, that's also cool. But that needs to be a substantial piece of art. No, Mixamo animations are they're it's a tool. It's not a. They can be used for commercial purposes. It's commercially licensed. Same with I think fuse characters. Any sort of asset pack that you buy off the asset store, you can also use commercially. Oh, you mean release them as your own animations? Yeah, that might be. That's a problem. Because because if you change it, yeah, because it's not 100% your own content. If that content's also freely available, and if it's licensed as share alike, or as long as you're not costing them, yeah, or CC0. But so with these animations, what you could do, look, because you're using the base of the keys. This is still all FK animation. So the animation essentially. Oh, I see why it was complaining. There wasn't an animation clip. But let's look at an animation, for example, like jogging forward. Right, so it's like 20 frames of animation, And basically what you're winning is like the fact that, well, there's your character is moving forward, but like if you go and this should work now. Let's just say spine, and now go and change this animation quite radically. So on each one of these limbs, change the way that the directions, you know, like change the overall timing and spacing of the animation. Then it's no longer Mixamo animation. I mean, the moment that you retarget this, and this is actually something that was quite interesting to me, is if I brought in the same character, so if I take this character to Mixamo, it identifies the, it identifies the rig that you had in there before. So it maps quite well then to the animations that are in Mixamo. But the problem is when downloading this again, so now you've brought in your own rig into Mixamo, and if you download that again and try and map back to that, or remap to that, for some reason it likes native animations better than the ones that you've retargeted. And retargeting stuff, I mean, it's not ideal. It's kind of like that whole argument that motion capture isn't animation. And yes, it's not, but it's, you know, in itself, it's not, because it's a tool. But you can't say that whatever comes out at the end isn't animation, because you still need to clean up all the frames. You need to, well, speed it up, change it up, add to it. You don't just keep it as is. But that is an interesting point. I'm not sure. I'm sure I've come across assets with Mixamo animations in them. Pretty sure I have. So it would be interesting to see what the actual copyright on that is. I'll check for you. Yeah. I mean, the other day I used a VR rig. Oh, and there was this very interesting thing. You guys should totally watch this. It's virtual productions. Okay, I should have searched this on YouTube, but let's just do that. No, not there. Guys, what am I doing? I just want YouTube, please. Okay, back here. You guys seen The Mandalorian? So they shot most of these scenes in like a cylinder, and they use yeah, just check it out. It's very cool. But what I actually wanted to show you, oh, there's another tool that Epic recently released. Live Link Face app. It allows you to record facial animation, stream that into the engine, but I think you can also download it. It's for now it's iPhone and iPad only, but yeah, some cool stuff coming that way. And then there's Radical Motion. These guys have been doing it for some time now, but to various degrees of success. And I know there's a bunch of tools on the market that are doing this now because of ARKit and whatnot, but you can basically also go and try and make your own animations with that dude to help you. Okay, and it works pretty much as good as you can, as they're showing you here, because you get mistakes like shoulders not lifting properly, and turnarounds sometimes mess up the and sometimes it loses sync, just like shown as advertised. But yeah, still for short snippets and loopables, it's also an interesting way to go. Yeah, I think this is free. They work on a strange pricing structure where they charge you for the amount of times you use it. They have no free tier anymore. That's stupid. Especially because it's not really that groundbreaking. If you look at any ARKit, IK, tracking, there's a bunch of people doing it. This almost looks like it's on campus in the factory. Again, with various levels of success. Right. Yeah, I think they at some point they wanted to go into partnership with us, and they sent us a sort of a partnership agreement, so we can test out their product for a nominal price over an extended period of time. But they were still in early development, and again, like I say, it's not. I mean, it's sort of novel at the moment, but it is going to become a little bit more mainstream, I think, having motion capture or access to motion capture tools. There's also ways to use your Connect for motion capture. I don't know if anyone's tried that. We've also gone that route, but the problem was the export of getting it into Blender. I think getting into Unity is an easier task than getting it into Blender. That's I think there's actually a couple of tools for this in Unity already, but yeah, just on the thought of creating your own animations, or if you want create an animation asset pack, and I suppose you could. There was can't handle it. No. not it. I did download a BVH tool recently, so I'm running out of tab space. Maybe check it here. Can't find the substance one. Should be in there. Those days when the package manager just doesn't want to. So this tool is free, and it uses I think it actually uses a VR controller, yeah. Okay, so you use XRKit to set up the animator, and where is she doing the tracking? Yep, that looks about right. Characters normally bent like that. So yeah, that's kind of the results that I got. Also setting up the same type of thing with. What's nice about this is, at least, this records it and saves it as an animation. So that's what this tool does. But you could probably do a much better sort of point tracking system with the same tool. Again, that's quite technical. Making vegetables is also an option, a legitimate option. Oh, the episodes. Oh, The Mandalorian. Where was it? Was it on Amazon? No? Amazon? Who released it? I don't even know. Yeah. I'm not at liberty to say where you get it. I don't know where I got it. But yeah, it's an awesome series. So what's really amazing about that tech is that you're now using things that were only kind of like concepts in the 3D realm, like HDR lighting, and you're bringing it to the real world. You're doing image-based lighting, but in real world on set. So that's, yeah, this is some really cool tech right here. And then later in the video, where he mentions how this technology then informs the filmmaking, so they know that they only need to build like portions of the set, like half a spaceship or something like that, because they can match it to the camera, and then yeah, the camera's actual physical movement just matches the perspective of the some very cool stuff happening. So have any of you downloaded Displayland yet and scanned your dog? And why not? Scan your pet. Download Displayland and scan your pet today. Because you have to try out the app. Okay, fine, it doesn't have to be your pet. Okay, that's fine. Could have been worse. PC is fine. Scan your PC. Um, what? What? Okay, okay. Now they're going to what? Shut down? What? So what? They just stop working? Damn it, guys! Why didn't you download it last week? Ah. Okay, there's other methods for capturing that as well. I'll surely find another. Yeah, some of them you need like additional lenses and things for, or and lidars. Why did they? What is this? It's launched. Ah, okay. Ubiquity. Okay. I think we actually have some connects and things. I don't know if at school as well. If anyone's interested in using any of the tech that we have there. Another interesting project to me was this guy. I don't know if you've seen him do that VR hand tracking stuff. It's like hand kit for this guy made this extensive tool set for hand tracking. But yeah, okay. That's a pity about Displayland. Guys, I'll find other photogrammetry stuff if there are enough people interested in photogrammetry. Like I said, I have tried other things in the past. It just makes more sense to use video for photogrammetry because you need all of those images anyway. So it's almost like you can take video and then take the video and then extract all the images and then take all the images and then upload them to something like Meshroom instead. Meshroom is open source, so I don't think anyone's taking that off the market anytime soon. I think it is, at least. Yeah. All right. So that also basically allows you to. It works. It doesn't work on Mac. Okay, so that's why I haven't used it. This one specifically, but you need a ton of images. But like I said, you could take a video, extract the video files, and then upload those as an image sequence. It has this sort of node-based process where you have to plug in all the right sort of things that need to happen in the process to convert it into a mesh. But there's a lot of good tutorials on how to begin doing that as well, and the results will be a lot more sort of professional. There's one doing it in Blender specifically. Yeah, so photogrammetry is also a really fun thing to do. I think that Jonathan, you should just go around scanning homeless people and then making an asset pack of homeless people that you can distribute in your level. Shame. Just it's rough. Okay. Yeah, dogs don't lie still enough for that in any case. Yeah, I suppose you could still download the APK for Displayland, but I think it's their services that that sort of converts it, so that might not work so well. Okay. Yeah. No, don't go scan homeless people, please. I don't think it's not safe. Scan people. Cameras. There's no one around. No one cares. Cares about the people there. Okay. Okay, guys. So the hand-in is tomorrow. Just jot down your thoughts and what you have in place and where you plan on going and some references and stuff. It's not hectic. I think it's some free points if you do it. Should be an easy enough assignment, and then we can all get on the same page. Cool. Any other ideas and thoughts? Okay, well, go think about it, and then yeah, please submit your documentation for that. It's a good thing to go and, if you do want to make an asset pack of any particular kind, to go and see what's out there and what people have made, and then maybe just see how you can make something different. Okay. That's cool. Okay. All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Chat soon. Bye. No, you don't have to. Because I can access the meet data, so I can see who joins when and what. So that's fine. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Bye-bye. I will. After I scan my dog. Reflective things are typically a lot harder to do, and things with transparency and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you need controlled environments so that you have, so you can control the lights and that you don't get sheen. But yeah.